Hey guys, welcome back to RUE MORGUE TV. I'm Executive Editor Andrea Subasati, here to remind you that deluxe subscriptions are here. We are so excited about these. With a deluxe subscription to RUE MORGUE, not only do you get each and every issue delivered straight to your door, you get access to the digital edition of that issue, and that's not all. You also get access to our entire back archive of RUE MORGUE magazine. That's over 200 issues and counting from 1997 onward. That's a lot of good stuff, guys. So get on that. Hit the link below to check that out. Enjoy this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Hey everyone, welcome to Horror on the Rocks here on RUE MORGUE TV. I'm Mike DePice from Whiskey Morgue on Instagram, where I pair the whiskeys that I'm drinking with the horror movies that I'm watching. Today I brought along 5 whiskeys to pair with my top 5 favorite slashers. So pour a drink and let's jump in. Cool, so we're going to count down the 5 pairings. So starting at number 5 is Friday the 13th, Part 1.
Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
5.
Now this is a movie that I wasn't too fond of growing up, simply because it didn't have Jason in it, unless of course you count the frail, decomposing version of him in the final canoe scene. But we do get his maniacal mother seeking her sweet boy's revenge. After revisiting this film a few times with a little bit more maturity, a little bit more alcohol consumption, you realize that the matriarch is a pinnacle point in the franchise, and without her, we don't have Friday the 13th or Jason Voorhees. I also really dig the big reveal at the end, where we find out that it's Pamela Voorhees, Miss Voorhees, running around Camp Crystal Lake, putting up some nasty kills, doing so all in her finest knit sweater.
Well, I'm Mrs. Voorhees, an old friend of the Christies.
When I think of the importance of motherhood in the matriarch in the whiskey world, naturally I think of the legend Margie Samuels. She helped co-found Maker's Mark. She was responsible for all the branding, the iconic bottle design, and the blood red wax strip. Without Margie's creativity and passion for the brand, it wouldn't have become a top-selling bourbon for fornicating camp counselors across America. So Maker's 101 is great because it has a ton of caramel, vanilla. I get green apple notes on it. Reminds me of like a caramel dipped apple drizzled with some chocolate. Super summer camp. Also, this works really well in a Manhattan, unlike Jason. In at number 4 is Scream. With Scream, Wes Craven completely redefined the genre with the idea of the meta slasher. He completely addressed the archetypes, the tropes that were used in traditional films. And right from the opening scene, we see that with this game of cat and mouse and this twisted trivia game of horror, this is clearly a departure from the traditional slasher film.
Hello?
Look, I gotta go.
Wait, I thought we were gonna go out.
Nah, I don't think so.
Don't hang up on me.
On the note of departing from tradition, I'm pairing this one with New Riff Rye. So New Riff is an emerging craft distillery from Kentucky, and their whole idea is to create a new riff on old traditions. They've intentionally left out the stakeholders, investors, so they have complete freedom over their creativity and what they do with the product. Both Scream and Rye are 2 things that I associate with winter, being that the Scream releases were typically in December, and Rye is just literally Christmas in a glass. When I nose this one, I get a ton of that rye spice, that bold rye spice, dried fruits, toffee. It literally tastes like panettone, Christmas cake in a glass. If you're interested in throwing this one in a cocktail, I suggest maybe doing a new old fashioned, just to be like Wes Craven and completely redefine the drink. Do what you want with it, throw some new fruit in it, smoke it, throw a piece of bacon, have fun with it.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a scary movie.
In at number 3 is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1. Now, this is a movie that has a ton of memorable scenes, but the one that sticks out to me the most has to be the bathtub scene. I think it's because with that clock coming up, you really truly start to understand how menacing, how even perverse Freddy is. This is probably why I've had this irrational fear of bathtubs growing up and taking baths, and probably why for many years I've had to pull the curtain back while I pee in the middle of the night. Other than the obvious bathtub imagery, I picked Jim Beam's Old Tub to pair this with because the story behind Old Tub is that when it was first created, people would go to the Jim Beam's distillery with their jugs and literally scoop bourbon from an old tub. And to me, just like good horror or a good slasher, it should be cheap, accessible, something that people can kind of gather around and enjoy together. So this one here has very typical Jim Beam characteristics with that nuttiness, that cinnamon and clove spice cutting through on the finish. I think this one works really well in a hot toddy. So mash up whatever you'd like, get that boiling water, potentially from your local boiler room, and just try not to fall asleep in the bathtub. In at number 2 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, this is a movie that I feel has a lot more complexity than it's given credit for. Sometimes we see this get lost in the remakes. When we get introduced to Leatherface, he is opening up that taxidermy door and takes a mallet to Kirk's head. Kirk's convulsing on the ground. But then later on, we have another Leatherface who is in woman's makeup, wig, dressed as the mother of the household, taking care of the family and kind of like squealing in a high-pitched voice. And then we end up with a third outfit change where he's now in his dinner suit, and which we see him take that right to the end, right into the streets when he's like running around with a chainsaw. For this one, I'm pairing it with Los Lanterns Balcones because not all road trips in Texas end up horrible. This is a husband and wife duo who go around the US on road trips finding craft distillers that they can bottle and put out to the public. Balcones is set in Texas. When you think of Balcones, Balcones is complex, it's bold. That Texas heat completely changes the whiskey compared to a lot of other whiskeys. In this, you get notes of strong molasses, burnt sugars. This smells like Texas barbecue. This one I suggest drinking just straight up and try not to end up in the streets wielding a chainsaw. In at number 1 is my absolute favorite movie, Halloween, the original.
The one, the only, the classic Halloween.
I love it because we don't know what's motivating this character to kill. He has this expressionless mask. He's just kind of like lurking in the shadows or behind bushes or behind cars while you're studying or behind clotheslines.
Hello?
So naturally, I'm pairing this one with Ardbeg Ugadal. Now, Ugadal literally translates to dark and mysterious. And if there's any one character or one killer that's dark and mysterious, it's Michael Myers and his pure evil. So this one is sweet and smoky. Off the bat, you get a ton of smoke, peat, like campfire, what my wife would call cat piss. But on the back end of it, you get this lurking vanilla and sweetness that pops up. Although some might say that it's blasphemous to mix this in with any kind of cocktail or drink, it does work really well with a Coke. It's called a Smoky Cokey, but I suggest swapping the Coke out for a Dr. Pepper.
Halloween.
So that's it for our first ever episode of Horror on the Rocks. Again, I'm Mike DePice from Whiskey Morgue. You can find me on Instagram at Whiskey Morgue. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you're drinking. Let me know you're watching. Let me know what you want to pair. Cheers.